Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
It felt just like another day of football practice today. The Alabama Crimson Tide. It felt just like another day of football practice today. The Alabama Crimson Tide hit the field for the first time in preparation for the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma. It's been a wild week with awards, speculation, and more. So finally, we're back to football. And welcome in everybody to Tider Insider TV. I'm Gary Harris alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. As always, we're sponsored by Buffalo Rock, and tonight, ice cold Pepsi Cola. Very, very good. All right, Rodney, as we said, quite a week. Finally, on Friday night, a resolution to all the rumors and speculation about head coach Nick Saban. He's staying put in Tuscaloosa, agreeing to a new contract that will pay him between $7 and $7.5 million per year, reportedly. Let's talk about it.
Well, again, I think it's certainly was a major coup, Gary, that the announcement came at the time that it did because there had been so much speculation. But again, there was a huge recruiting weekend last weekend, as we know, and I think, you know, that announcement certainly, even though the prospects themselves, the ones that we had spoken to throughout the week had told us that they never thought that Coach Saban was going to leave anyway, but at the same time, I think when this came out, certainly it gave them another degree of confidence.
All right, you had said all along on your site, for the record, that you did not think Nick Saban was going anywhere. And certainly that was proven out. You take a look there at the reported numbers, and Bill Battle saying that Coach Saban is the best in the business and has led our program to the pinnacle of college football. Why were you so confident, Rodney, when there were others saying that they very well thought he could wind up at Texas?
Well, first of all, the main source was Nick Saban himself. I mean, you know, you kind of had to take what he said in the 60 Minutes piece when he said that, integrity was very important to him. He felt like the way he had mishandled the departure from Miami took a hit on his integrity, Gary. And, from there on, he made several comments. And they weren't just simple comments. He certainly gave some background to his feelings in terms of, he planned to stay here. He was too old to start over somewhere else. They felt like a part of the community here, and they had challenges here that they felt like they wanted to complete. And also, not only that, you had Terry Saban, his wife, commenting in the Wall Street Journal. No, a lot of people wanted to focus on, some comment that we don't even really know the context of in terms of about lack of appreciation. But the key to her comments were that the decision had been made, that they wanted to stay here, they were going to stay here, and that they were going to retire here. So if you take all those things together, I didn't think that there was any reason to believe that Nick Saban would go back on the things that he had said and that he would follow through and stay here at Alabama.
You know, Rodney, there were some high school football players paying close attention to Nick Saban's future this weekend. The Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Classic featured several Alabama commitments and targets. Here's what some of them had to say about a deal with the coach being reached.
I saw that, definitely so, because definitely don't think I would want to be going there if he wasn't there. So it definitely is a plus.
I was thrilled because I know I'm going to learn a lot underneath him and that great Alabama coaching staff. And they're just going to make me a better player and everyone out there, and probably keep on the national championships coming.
I danced all up and down the hallway. I'm so happy that he shut those Texas talkers up, because it was like not, and I'm not talking about the people from Texas. I'm talking about just people who were like, Saban's gonna leave, Saban's gonna. I was like, you know what, whatever. Okay, watch, he's finna show y'all.
Josh Casher, the former Auburn commit, now committed to Alabama.
I told you that's exactly the way they felt. They felt that all along that he was certainly keeping his word with what he had told them and their parents and their high school coaches.
All right, Rodney, now that is all in the rearview mirror, we can start to focus on the Crimson Tide's final game of this season, the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans against Oklahoma. The Tide started practice for the game today, and of course, after a long season, you're going to have some issues in terms of personnel, maybe some guys coming back, some others like Anthony Steen probably going to miss the game after shoulder surgery. That means a little bit of a shuffle on the offensive line.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do there on the offensive line with Steen out at right guard. Gary, the guy who's been the kind of the swing guard, he actually came in the Texas A&M game and played really well with senior Kellen Williams. We'll see exactly what they try to do there or might do there with Steen out. There has been some talk, too, Gary, that you might see Chad Lindsey at center, of course, who started some games this year, started the Auburn game, played the entire game, and maybe You might even see Ryan Kelly work some at right guard. So that'll be an interesting position to keep an eye on.
All right, indeed. Alabama back out on the practice field. Here are some notes. As we mentioned, Steen out. Grant Hill could have a chance to start there at right guard with the first team. Shank Taylor might work there some as well. Ryan Kelly, of course, working with the first team at center. He started against Auburn coming off an injury. And Nick Perry and Dalvin Tomlinson, who missed most of the season, both back at practice wearing black jerseys. But still, they might factor in the bowl game. All right, much more to come on Tider Insider TV tonight. Coming up next, we'll dive right into that matchup. And we'll do it with some help from John Shin. He's an Oklahoma beat reporter from the Norman Transcript. We'll get his thoughts on this matchup after the break. Plus, as always, we'll welcome your phone calls and emails. The number is on your screen, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can send us an email at TITV@WVUATV.com. And if you're using Twitter, you can use the hashtag TiderInsiderTV to interact with us throughout the show. We want to hear from you. Stay with us for more of the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock. We'll be right back. While rumors had Nick Saban house hunting in Austin, the reality was he was on the road doing what he does best, recruiting. He hit up Louisiana, Texas, and Georgia, among others, hunting for the nation's top recruiting class this past week. And this weekend was a big one for recruiting. Official visitors were here over the weekend, and currently the Tide is ranked first by every major recruiting service that's out there. Not a bad place to be as the dead period is now underway. Of course, now is a great time to head over to TiderInsider.com to get the scoop on all things Alabama. Rodney, as always, does a great job with that site. And joining us now to talk about the Sugar Bowl is the beat writer from the Norman Transcript, John Shin. He covers Oklahoma for them. And, John, let's start off by asking what's your initial thoughts on this matchup from the OU perspective?
It's pretty quick. I know it didn't even dawn on most of us in the press box until, I guess, the day of the Oklahoma State game, final day of the regular season, that it was even possible. It was that OU thought it was going to the Sugar Bowl last year, and then Northern Illinois crept up in the BCS standings, and then when Northern Illinois lost Friday night, all of a sudden that opened the door for a Big 12 team to get an at-large there. But again, I mean, they were getting ready to play Oklahoma State team that had been the hottest one in the Big 12. They were a double-digit underdog on the road, and then they messed around and won that game. And then you look up, and Lordy, they're playing Alabama. So that you know, you went from thinking they were definite for the Alamo Bowl to you're getting Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. So that was a weird, probably 24-hour period, but it was. I know Oklahoma is extremely excited about the matchup. It was something they didn't really see coming until what transpired last Saturday.
John, how big was Oklahoma's final three-game winning streak for their confidence?
They had already kind of been eliminated. Not kind of, they had been. They couldn't win a Big 12 title, and it was a weird spot for them to be in that last weekend, not really having a chance. They're pretty used to being in that position, and you know, if you mention the word spoiler to them, they, you know, had total disdain for that. But that was really the spot they were in. But, you know, the last, I would say since the second half of the Iowa State game, so I guess about their last 10 quarters of football, they seem to have just gotten a little bit better and better, which is something typically teams that are playing BCS games either get better throughout the year or just kind of have overwhelming talent from the start. Oklahoma's kind of figured out a way to get a little bit better every week, and they were pretty stagnant in the middle of the season, but they figured out a way to close the year playing their best football.
And, John, we know, of course, on this end, the strengths of this Alabama team, which are many, but what are some areas that you think the Sooners can give Alabama some problems with in this game?
In order to give Alabama some issues, they're going to have to get them in some third and long situations. They've kind of thrived on that all year. Now, granted, that's easier said than done. They haven't faced a team that can really, you know, kind of bang it down your throat like Alabama can. I guess, you know, the closest analogy would be Notre Dame. And OU, quite frankly, didn't play great stopping the run in that game. They got two quick turnovers, turned it into a 14-0 lead, and were just kind of able to ride that the rest of the way. But I think the area that OU is, if they're going to have a chance, they're going to have to play extremely well on special teams. That's something they've done really the last 3 weeks or the last 3 games. And that's an area they're going to have to exploit because both offensively and defensively, you got to think Alabama's got an edge on both sides of the ball there.
Finally, John, we know the Las Vegas odds makers think this one could be a runaway. Alabama, a couple touchdown favorite. The consensus amongst everybody, Rodney, is that Alabama's the stronger team. Do the Oklahoma players believe that they can do some things and make some magic happen for them on January 2nd in the Superdome?
Oh, yeah. They believe they can. They know they're an underdog. They know why they're an underdog. I mean, Alabama, quite frankly, is a goofy kick return away from playing for another national title. And, you know, Oklahoma just has not played at that kind of dominant level in a while. So they fully understand it. They're fully embracing the opportunity. I mean, it's not very often Oklahoma gets to be an underdog, and they were that the last two regular season games, and they certainly are going in the Sugar Bowl. And they're fully embracing it. So, I mean, they believe they can win. They believe if they can figure out a way to hang in there, and then all of a sudden it's a game with 5 minutes left, that they can figure out a way to win it. But, I imagine that's kind of the case with just about everybody Alabama plays. You just got to figure out a way to hang in there and then see what happens at the end.
And if you do, we saw against Auburn, if you keep it close,
Yeah.
you got a chance. All right, John, thanks so much for the insight there from Oklahoma. All right, coming up next, we're reliving some of the best moments of 2013 for Alabama fans, and we're going to welcome your phone calls and emails. All the information that you need to get in touch with us is on the screen there. So go ahead and give us a call or send us an email or contact us on Twitter. We'll be back with your comments next on Tider Insider TV. Stay with us right here on Alabama's home team, WVUA.
From the 27, comes up the middle, 35-40, cuts left outside the coverage, 50, left sidelines, 45, he's to the 30, he's may go, he's to the 10, he's to the 5. Welcome to the 2013 season. The process begins again.
Indeed, it did. We're looking at the top 3 plays of the year for the Crimson Tide, starting with that one at number 3. Christian Jones started the year off on the right foot against the Hokies. The top 2 plays are on the way. And welcome back to Tider Insider TV. I'm Gary Harris, joined by Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. It's time to take some viewer phone calls and emails, and let's get it started tonight with a trip down to Sylacauga to talk to Charles. Hey, Charles, welcome into the program. How are you?
Fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to know will Darius Page and Alvin Kamara be ready for the spring?
Rodney, let's start with Darius Page, the big freshman defensive tackle out of down at Foley, who had a medical situation. What's the latest?
Well, he was disqualified medically, so whether or not he ever participates in football anywhere, remains to be seen. But certainly we haven't heard that he'll, be participating here. As far as Alvin Kamara is concerned, he was actually practicing today, so. I would expect him in the spring.
All right, Charles, thanks for the phone call from Sylacauga. Let's take an email, and this one comes to us on Kenyon Drake from Janice and Gadsden. We've talked some about this, I think, on the program, but Gary, tell me what happened to Kenyon Drake in the Auburn game. I assume, Rodney, she's obviously talking about the second half when he didn't carry the ball very often. I think he only had 4 carries for the game, but we talked about this a little bit last week. That kind of game, a lot of, on the line. T.J. Yeldon, a proven veteran. I think in the second half, they just felt more comfortable with T.J. Yeldon.
Obviously, that's the route they decided to go, Gary, for whatever reason. And again, we don't really know if, Kenyon was banged up a little bit. He said on his Twitter that he wasn't. But at the same time, maybe they didn't feel comfortable with him, as you mentioned, carrying the football in those situations.
One thing's for sure, he's extremely talented. He had a big year, a lot of speed, and going to, be a big factor for Alabama in the future at the running back position, no doubt about that. Well, more calls and emails are coming up in the next segment. Plus, we'll continue to count down the Crimson Tide plays of the year. And you can still get in if you want to give us a phone call at 205-348-WVUA. The email address is on the screen, TITV@WVUATV.com. And the Twitter, #TiderInsiderTV. One more segment of your comments and questions to come. You're watching Tider Insider TV, the show that takes you inside the Tide. We'll be back in a moment.
Straight drop, Manziel looks right, pumps, throws long, looking, it's tipped in the air, intercepted Alabama. Sunseri has his second pick of the year. He's to the 50, back the other way to the 40. He's to the 30, going down the left sideline, 20, 15, 10, 5, spin, touchdown! Touchdown! 72 yards.
Getting excited there, Eli and Phil. That's our second-ranked play of the year for the Tide. It's Vinny Sunseri's pick 6 against Johnny Football and the Aggies. He gave Alabama a commanding 35-14 lead in the third quarter, and the Tide held on for a 49-42 win in College Station. In the next segment, we'll reveal the play of the year here on Tider Insider TV. But right now, back to the phones and emails, and we've got an email on tap for you. It is from Marvin and Hoover. Do you guys think that Hubbard and Pagan will turn pro? It's a good question. Let's start with Adrian Hubbard, the red-shirted junior outside linebacker defensive end.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about it. You know, there was speculation that he may go last year. I think he got a pretty good evaluation from what, you know, the scuttlebutt is. But, you know, it wouldn't be a surprise if he did.
And Jeffrey Pagan had a really good year at defensive tackle for the team.
Yeah, you know, again, there's some talk now that he may do it as well, Gary, this year. And, you know, we'll see on him. I think it would, you know, probably depend on how much he could improve his stock and coming back a year. But certainly I think Alabama, though they're well, you know, stocked with some defensive linemen, it would be valuable to have him back.
Well, in the process, Rodney, part of it, Nick Saban expects it, is for guys that do well to leave early and go to the NFL. It's just part of the program and the way he likes to do things. So we'll watch our, we'll watch these guys, and also safety Ha Clinton Dix. He might be one that looks to leave, and offensive tackle Cyrus Kwanjo can figure into the mix as well. A lot of that will depend on their draft evaluations from the NFL. All right, let's take a phone call. Let's go to Vance and talk to Bill. Bill, welcome into the program. Bill, you with us?
As far as recruiting on the running back out of New Orleans, number one running back in the nation, what's Alabama's situation on him?
Well, first of all, Leonard Fournette from St. Augustine High School there in New Orleans is certainly, you know, some people are already comparing him to some of the great ones that have ever played the game in the college, on the college level. And I think, you know, he made an official visit to Alabama this past weekend. He's been on visits here before. But, you know, when you're talking about a kid out of New Orleans, Louisiana, who's the #1 player according to some in the state, not only in the state but in the country, and the magnitude of Leonard Fournette, LSU is going to be very difficult to beat there. I know Alabama's in good position. I know they have a lot of contacts at that school. You know, Alabama running backs coach Burton Burns is an alum of that school, Gary, St. Augustine. So, and he has a lot of, you know, he's held in high esteem there. And look, Alabama may get him, but just me, from my experience, I certainly wouldn't hold my breath. I'd wait and make sure it happened before I told anybody.
All right, we got a Twitter question here on Marlon Humphrey. What is his status? Of course, he is the #1 ranked cornerback by some in the country out of nearby Hoover High School, and the son of former Bama great Bobby Humphrey.
Well, you know, again, you look at logic here, kind of like Fournette. You know, he's a son, as you mentioned, of the legendary Alabama player. He's from 50 miles down the road. Who produces cornerbacks in the NFL, first-round picks, better than Nick Saban at that position? I mean, logic says, why would you not follow, you know, in your dad's footsteps, come to Alabama when you have the opportunities that are presented here to win national championships and play for Nick Saban?
All right, got another phone call, Rodney. This is our buddy Plato. What's going on tonight, man? What you got for us? You there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Other than Jaron Reed and possibly DJ Petway, is there another JUCO player that we may be looking at, or do you know we may be looking at anybody else?
Latest on JUCOs, Rodney?
Well, again, you know, Alabama already had a commitment from Dominic Jackson out of California from San Mateo College out there, and, you know, he's an offensive lineman, but he won't be an early signee. I know that DJ Petway and Jaron Reed, of course, everybody knows DJ Petway, the former Alabama player, played at East Mississippi Community College, was a first-team junior college All-American this year, had 11.5 sacks as a defensive end there. He's expected to sign at 8 o'clock in the morning, as is Jaron Reed, defensive lineman, more of an interior-type player, and he's outstanding. So both of those guys are expected to sign with Alabama in the morning early.
All right, keep an eye out for that. All right, thanks to everybody that called in, emailed us, or message us on Twitter. Our Tider Insider next TV, Tider Insider TV, will be January 7th. We'll be off a couple of weeks for the holidays, with Tuesday being a Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, but I'll be live in New Orleans beginning on Sunday before the Sugar Bowl, so we'll have a lot of coverage for you from down there. We'll wrap up the show when we return, and we'll unveil the top play of the year for Tider Insider TV and Alabama football. Stay with us. You're watching TITV live from Tuscaloosa. Stay with us.
Now, Kenyon Drake is the tailback, lined up alongside his quarterback from the 11-yard line. A.J. throws into the end zone. One-hand grab. What a magnificent catch. Touchdown, Alabama. DeAndrew White. Welcome to Sports Center, because they're going to be showing that one all week long and then some.
You won't see a better catch than that anywhere. It's our Tider Insider TV top play of the year. DeAndrew White's grab, one-handed and getting those feet down. All right, Nick Saban met with the media following the first bowl practice just a little while ago, and our Lee Smith hustled back with some sound from Coach Saban, and he was asked again about Texas.
I think I've already made a reaction to that. Don't you watch ESPN and you see what they put down across the bottom line? That's my reaction to it, you know? I mean, so I don't have any more reactions to it, and I think it's kind of over, so why do we want to talk about that? Can we look forward? I'm looking forward, you know. I made a commitment to the players that are here, and, you know, I'm happy to be committed to them, and I want them to make the same kind of commitment to the program and to their future success.
All right, I think maybe we're finally done with that, don't you think?
Yeah, he put it to bed for sure.
All right, dinner time. We're headed over